Welcome to the Kinetic Metrics podcast, where we explore how automotive manufacturers are navigating the evolving world of safety compliance, not just from a regulatory standpoint, but how it's affecting operations, design cycles, and strategic planning. Today, we are speaking with Cory from Genetically Engineered. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. To kick things off, I'd like to hear a bit more about your company, your position at the company, and in general.
Genetically engineered vehicles. I'm the president of the company. Uh, the idea of the company is that we're building classic cars, specifically the '60s era Mustangs, but with a very modern twist to them in technology. Essentially, they're registered as multi-purpose vehicles built for off-road and on-road use. When I say off-road, I mean tracks, race tracks and such.
No rally car racing for the Mustangs.
No. I don't have any four-wheel drive function yet.
Okay.
But we are dealing more circuit kind of car or drag strip kind of idea.
Okay. And so, what right now is a typical work day for you?
Ah, we use them. So consider the long, arduous journey that takes to get certification and get design and get processes and such. So, that being considered, I also not necessarily independently wealthy. So, a lot of that comes down to my, I still have a current regular job. You can see in the background. And I gotta, and then my evenings and such are into the design, programming, configuring, and specing. Amongst my day, when I'm during my day work and such, I do meetings like this, meetings with the government, meetings with different manufacturers on trying to get some standard products made for us and such that are required for the build and such like that. So a lot of my day in the genetically engineered vehicles is based on some engineering, some theoretical design, and then sourcing partners to partner with on manufacturing parts. I can't build it all. So we are working with certain companies to help us manufacture certain parts, like the shells and stuff like that. Right now, I'm dealing with one company on as I've built my bodies before in steel. I'm working to have them completely redone in carbon fiber and composite materials. So those are the kind of things that take up now. Then once the body and everything comes together and the car comes together, then we'll get into doing the launching and the rolling out and the car shows and etc. to try and get the brand out there. The other thing I'm doing right now is a lot of brand actual design. So we're actually elbow deep in our logo design. So when it comes down to like racing and enthusiasm, the logo is one of the most important parts. So we are inputting a lot of resources into the proper logo design.
Wow. Well, as a fellow small business owner, I can sort of empathize with the fact that you find yourself wearing a lot of different hats throughout the day. So it's almost like the title of president doesn't even begin to cover it because sometimes I feel like the accountant on certain days, other days, it's like, like you said, working with design development, or then you feel like you're kind of like regulatory affairs dealing with the government side. So it's an interesting journey you're on. All right. So this kind of, since you were talking about, this kind of blends right into our core questions here. So from your vantage point right now at Genetically Engineered, what would you say are the most significant safety compliance trends or or regulatory shifts that you're seeing that you want to keep a close eye on right now?
It's obviously the EV thing. The government of Canada pushing an EV narrative by 2030, 2035 is a small irritant to me. I don't think that that's actually going to happen. As an engineer, and I won't get too far into it. If you like electric vehicles, then you like electric vehicles. However, an electric vehicle as an environmental point, they're terrible for the environment. So the I don't see that really going too far. I think it's just a fad narrative they're pushing right now, but that's a big concern of mine. In that case, watching that kind of unfold. I don't do electric vehicles. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. I don't do electric vehicles. I like um, electric motors and I like all that stuff to go along with it, but I don't believe they're. It's not the motor, I guess, that's the problem. It's the battery that's the real problem, and I don't believe that that's the future. Electric vehicles are the future. Battery powered electric vehicles are not, and so I just see that as being something that's not going to go well. All that said, even when that does go to that direction, there will always be a home for small volume specialty cars that are not electric vehicles, and so that's kind of where we're sitting ourselves in that case, is trying to be positioned properly for in a small volume thing to be able to still be able to sell regulated cars that are not fitting that motive in the distant future. Other things that we concern ourselves with, obviously, emissions changes and such that go on. We produce essentially muscle cars. They're not quite muscle cars, but essentially muscle cars with big block engines in them, and so emissions. It's a problem. So some of that gets resolved with our multi-purpose vehicle, because if it was registered as a passenger car, its emissions levels would be different and more constrained. That being said, we are providing our vehicles with a full emissions compliant exhaust system, as well as proper tuning and such, and monitoring and censoring on the emissions calibration within the engine itself, and then using the right fuel sources.
And then in conjunction with that, so you're talking about EV emissions in terms of like safety of the vehicle. Are you? I mean, obviously, you talked about that you're looking at kind of classic '60s style. Obviously, in the '60s, they didn't have all of the standards we have, and probably not all of the interior safety equipment. Are you looking to add or put in anything safety related? And do you see there being any hurdles with kind of retrofitting that into some of the older vehicles? Like, have there been challenges with implementing things like that?
That less so, because you'd be surprised to understand that when it comes to small volume specifically, but actually with the Canadian Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, there is no regulation about the use of airbags. You don't require those things. So you need occupant restraint systems in there, seatbelts, a proper seatbelt mounting that's rated to a certain G-force and such. Our cars will be equipped with 4 and 5 point harnesses, which will negate that. When I talk to our friends down at the CMVSS, indicate you wouldn't even if an airbag went off, your body wouldn't even touch the airbag, because the seatbelt will prevent you from even going into that region. The other one would be the crumple zones. Now, because high volume manufacturers require to go to a different level of safety standards, when you make a certain amount of cars, and that number is over 500, you're required to throw a couple of those cars into a brick wall in a comical sense, and determine the outcome of the passengers in the vehicle during those collisions, both be it front impact, rear impact, side impacts, etc. Um, when you make under 500, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that at all. And because, like, let's say you make at the beginning, we'll be making 5 cars. It'll be very difficult for us
Okay.
to destroy 6 cars when we're only making 5. So, in the small volume, the safety standards come down to the idea of the engineering design and the specifications and the verification.
So you were talking about the less than 500 for small volume.
Hmm.
Do you find that that's kind of a robust enough categorization? Is that going to eventually become kind of a bottleneck or area you think moving forward may need to be something that could be adjusted or looked into for your purposes, or do you...
They they gotta make the line somewhere. 500, I think, is an appropriate number. Um, I do not have at this point the aspiration of getting to 500 a year. That seems like a lot. What I'm trying to do is build cars that are more hand built. 500 is great for an assembly line. So more hand built cars. I'm trying to build cars that are more refined than just puzzle pieces on an assembly line. So the idea is that these cars are not $30,000 cars. They're over $300,000, and they're going to. So, my goal right now is to get us to 50 a year, right? Which would be really great, and that's plus any variants and stuff like that. So that would be my goal. 500. If they made it 50, I'd be upset. I'd be upset. 50, and then I have to wreck 6 of them? That's crazy. But 500 and wrecking 6, it gets you down into that like couple of percentile of your profit to maintain that safety standard. And I think that when you're flooding, for the lack of a better term, the market with a ton of cars, like Ford sells 500,000 trucks every year, right? So wrecking a few trucks to make sure that they're safe for when you have every second vehicle on the road is an F-150. That's ideal to know. But when you would see maybe one of our cars, maybe in your life, or maybe a year or something like that, then it's less of an issue for us to do that. So we'll take the cars, the engineering specifications and the development of it with our certification standards, and then that will be enough for the our national safety mark in order to accommodate that safety standard based on the engineering of it. And our engineering of the cars are quite substantially higher, i.e., the Mustangs were built as a unibody car. So we're incorporating a subframe. We're incorporating a bit more rigidity into the vehicle to alleviate any of that twist and that flex and those crumple functions. Our occupant restraint system is much more beefier and safer. The pads are wider. The seats are designed to keep you in place and such. So in the event of a collision, don't want that, but in the event of one, the occupant should be quite protected at that point, and that's what the Canadian Motor Vehicle Safety Standards wants to see. They're concerned
Good.
about the people, not the car.
Everybody wants to be safe, right? Look cool and be safe at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So looking ahead to the next year, year and a half, what's one key area of your business that you anticipate will require more focus or maybe present a significant hurdle for you?
So yeah, we're going through the building. So we're building a new facility So that's going to be a big one over the next year's time, for us to be able to properly build these cars and safety them. So what a lot of people don't know about safety standards and such, when it comes down to manufacturing, there is no regulated person going around checking the cars, right? So ultimately, your national safety mark and all that other stuff, they're registered to the building, not to the cars. The cars that come out of the building get the benefit of that national safety mark. So your address and all that other stuff, right? It's all registered to that. So if you move locations, then you have to go through this whole process again for the new location. On a big car company, it's less of an issue. On a small car company, it's a bit more of an issue with resources and such. But so that's what we're trying to do, is develop a really um, a really great starting facility, which we have labeled it the shop, and and that shop will take us to 5 cars a year. Once we are exceeding 5 cars a year, we've already started the plans for the what we're calling the factory, and the factory intention is to take us to that 50 car a year, and that is more of like a state of the art, bringing more manufacturing and more ability within house and such, and just trying to grow that uh, capability, minimize costs. Not to say that when you're building a car of this quality, it's cheap, but
Yeah.
minimize costs that'll help minimize the MSRP to the customer, but also grow our profit margins as well.
Yeah, more and more you're seeing the average MSRP has been
Getting
going
way up.
up and up and
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I say,
So
because we see him here in my wife, but we like, the Lamborghinis driving around and such. And she has never been one for these kinds. She's not a car person. And, she has, and so when I tell her about selling cars at 350 or $400,000 for a car, she's like, and I point it out all the time, like that car there, that one driving right by right now, that's a $400,000 car. Like, people buy these cars all the time. We just have to build a car that is worth the $400,000 price tag, because no one's going to buy a Chevette for $400,000 or a Cavalier for $400,000, right? You got to build a car that no one will pay, but they will pay. You build it, and they will come, as they say, as Kevin Costner says.
around, I want to dial back a little bit with your the compliance trends, just to kind of like loop back around and sort of get into wrap up. Do you see, so I know you talked about emissions, the electric vehicle push, um, although you mentioned that it's possibly not going to happen, possibly going to happen. So, I mean, what do you think the biggest impact would be on your operations? I guess looking at both lanes. So, say it does go through versus not going through.
Um,
Or how significant would it really impact,
I guess
say
in
there
the
was
end,
a
if
big.
it does go through, it'll be how a small volume manufacturers will be able to sit underneath let's call it underneath the radar of their purview, right? So right now, they're taxing the crap out of cars that are internal combustion cars. When you make so many cars, there's a carbon tax getting added on to them. Right? I don't make that many cars. So as long as I stay underneath those car numbers, um, we can fly under the radar. And that's really the hope in that case. However, you know, with um, the change of ruling powers and stuff like that comes change of policy and procedure, and that's really what we're hoping for. Change of policy and procedure. You will see a serious thing in the future when it comes down to recyclability and replacement of the batteries. So that will be a huge hamper, which if you talk to Ford, Volkswagen, and all those other guys, they'll tell you that they've seen an extreme slowing of the EV market of recently, to the point where Ford has pulled out billions of dollars out of their research in electric vehicles only on the idea that, let's call a spade a spade. Ford is a capitalistic company, and great on them. They make a lot of money, and that's what they're here for. They will not sell a car that won't sell. They will only sell cars that will sell. And in that facet, they don't want to sell EVs for the environment. They want to sell EVs because they want to sell cars and people are buying EVs. And that's great. That's capitalism at its finest. But that facet is already starting to see this slowing down of this degradation or retrograding of the EV market, because people are realizing that they're not quite great for the market that we're in, not quite great for that market, not quite great for the longevity, the resale value, the environment, not quite great for maintenance costs, not quite great for a lot of avenues that go along with that. And so they're going to have a problem. The last part I would say that the government will be concerned about is that they have this ideological idea of what they want our utopian society to be like. And it looks great on paper, but in reality, the infrastructure is not there. And so that'll also hold them back. So that's why I'm not holding my breath on the EV mandate because I don't think it's really going to happen because they just don't have that ability. Now, maybe 20 years from now, but at that point, I'll be gone. It won't be an issue.
It's like back in the day where they thought we were gonna be like the Jetsons
Yeah,
already, and it's
everyone
like,
running
ooh, we're
around.
not quite there.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that electric vehicles were the first vehicles. It was internal combustion engines that came out after electric vehicles, and there was a battle then in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and the internal combustion engines were just the more logical sense vehicle to have. And now, here we are again in the case of it all. So we'll just keep going through this every 100 years, much like COVID. Every 100 years, we'll go through another pandemic.
Hopefully not. Yeah. Hopefully in 100.
Yeah,
Let's
not
not
100.
make it any sooner than
Yeah.
that. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your insights, Cory, and I really appreciate you being so candid about everything as well. So this is really helping us understand, the automotive landscape a little bit better. And part of what we're looking at is how, I think what's near and dear to me is how it affects small businesses, being a small business owner, and sharing those stories is of utmost importance in that realm.
Yeah.
So,
I do believe that regulations and policies are the best thing because they help. The people who do things right don't have to worry about it because they're just going to fit to those regulations. Things people who cut corners, they have to worry about it. And so regulation and policy are not a problem for me in any case of it all. But when you start to get into this idea of people wanting to force people to do other things, that can be a problem for a bunch of citizens within the country, and it could be a hamper on our business model. So we don't want to go through that.
So true. All right. Well, I'm gonna press the button here. Thank you, Cory.
No, thank you.